and gentlemen, in fulfillment of the constitutional requirement under Article 101, Clause 1 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, I am here to deliver the State of the Nation Address 2024. On this occasion of the State of the Nation Address, I would like to remind the Ugandans of the three historical missions, the four principles of the NRM, and therefore determine what distance has been covered in prosecuting those goals and what remains to be done, and what is the main obstacle on that transformational road. Our movement came on the scene initially as a student movement, getting elements from the old political parties of UPC, DP, and Kaweka Yeka that had sectarian platforms, misusing the politics of identity, religious, tribal, and gender chauvinism. After careful analysis, we established that Africa needed us to pursue three historical missions. If Africa was to survive and thrive, that's how we looked at it. We looked at it as a matter of survival. If Africa is to survive, we thought it had to do the following. The three historical missions are prosperity for the African people, including the people of Uganda. Are the people of Africa entitled to prosperity or not? Secondly, strategic security for the African people. Do the African people need to be secure from all threats, from wherever? And taking advantage of the brotherhood of the African people to achieve the first two missions. These Africans you are talking about, do you know that they are either similar people or they are linked? How was the prosperity of the African people to be achieved? Could it be achieved through begging for foreign aid, as some were emphasizing? Could foreign aid give us the prosperity we are talking about? The answer, according to us, was no. Our conclusion was that prosperity could only come from each adult person engaging in producing a good or a service sustainably and selling it. That's where prosperity comes from. Each adult person must produce a good or a service and sell it. If he or she does so with a chibaro is our local language meaning maximizing profit, making sure that what you are doing will give you what you want, he or she will be prosperous. Since individuals cannot effectively work alone, the different zones of the country are always encouraged to specialize in given clusters of products or services. It is this realization that led us to distill our first NRM principle, patriotism, love Uganda. Why love Uganda? It is because you need it for your prosperity in the form of the market. Whether you like other Ugandans or you don't like them, but you need them for your prosperity, because they need to buy what you produce so that you are able to be prosperous. When you produce a good or a service, the next question is, who will buy the good or service and in sufficient quantities to guarantee the prosperity of the wealth creator? One of the factors we realized was that normally people of the same tribe or the same locality produce similar products. Hence, they do not easily buy from one another. It is the people from other parts of the country that produce different products that buy the wealth creators' products. Therefore, the opportunists that promote sectarianism and parochialism are enemies of wealth creators, starting with their relatives. They are pseudo-prophets. Banabi abeb shuba. Banabi abobulimba. The Historical Mission of Prosperity pushed us to discover the second NRM ideological principle, that of Pan-Africanism. Love East Africa. Love Africa. Those who are the guests who are not from here, from East Africa, they had us playing two anthems, the anthems you had. One anthem is for Uganda, the other one is for East Africa. We insist on that in order for us to get out of poverty, we need Uganda, we need East Africa, we need Africa. Because if they buy what we produce, we are going to be prosperous. And if we also buy what they produce. Why? It is because you need them. You need East Africa, you need Africa for your prosperity, other issues aside. When wealth creators get serious with production, when they increase the production of goods and services, the internal market is no longer enough. When you see people talking of tribes and religions, it is because they are not serious. Because if you are a serious wealth creator, there is no way you can talk of a tribe or religion. Because you need the pockets of so many people to support your prosperity. When wealth creators get serious with production, when they increase the production of goods and services, the internal market is no longer enough. We need the East African market, we need the African market, and we need the global market. Since the recovery of the economy of Uganda, we have seen this. It's not a theory. We have seen it. We saw it before, it was implemented, but we have now seen it in reality. Our production of sugar is now 600,000 metric tons. However, the internal market is only 380,000 metric tons. Who is to buy the surplus sugar of 220,000 metric tons? The milk production is now 5.3 billion liters. Who is to buy the extra 4.5 billion liters, since the internal demand is only 800 million liters? The cement production is now 6.4 million metric tons, and yet the internal demand is only 2.4 million tons. Who is buying the surplus? How about the steel products? The internal demand is 1.5 million metric tons, yet the annual production of steel products in Mitayimbwa, although still at 610,000 metric tons, leaving a deficit of 890,000 metric tons, it will soon be about 3 million metric tons with the new vertically integrated steel industries using the high-grade obutare. Obutare is our indigenous word for iron ore of Muko in the Rwanda area. So soon our production will be 3 million metric tons of steel, and yet the internal demand is 1.5 million. Who will buy the surplus steel? The products of the new vertically integrated factories will completely wipe out the need for importing high-quality steel for hydropower dams, the railway, high-rise buildings, etc., that need very strong steel, different from the steel of the recycled steel products from scrap metal. Because up to now, we have been using scrap metal, the old tanks of Idi Amin, to make steel. But now we are going to use our iron ore, our obutare, the best in the world. There is no other iron ore which is richer than this one, 70% pure. Even now, we also import steel ingots and add value. Some of this steel is re-exported to the region. The answer for all these questions is that it is mainly East and Central Africa that are buying the surplus. The commercial area is buying goods and services worth US dollars 2 billion, 2.157 billion from Uganda. Therefore, the NRM was right to distill the principles of patriotism and Pan-Africanism, and to oppose groups that were pushing for parochialism in Uganda and Eurocentrism globally. You know, when we were about coming to government, I went to Europe, and the Europeans asked me, because our old political parties here, the Democratic Party was allied to the Christian Democratic Party of Germany. They were actually being supported by the Konrad Adenauer Foundation. The UPC was being supported by the Social Democrats. They have got their group. They are the ones who helped them to build the Uganda House, to start building the Uganda House. Then the government built it using government money. And when we came, some people wanted me to take back the building. I said, no, wacha wachukue hii kitu. So, these fellows expected us to side with the European parties, Social Democrats versus Christian Democrats. I said, sorry, I'm not part of that crowd. I am an Afro-centric person. I start with Africa. I don't start with Europe. I'm not a European. So we refused to join those groups. They had Christian International, Socialist International. We have never gone there. Never. And we told our people clearly that our focus is Africa. And here, I'm giving you facts now. I'm not talking about stories here. I'm talking of cement. The list is too long. I couldn't finish it. I didn't talk about maize, about bananas, about beef. You know what is happening. It is Africa that is supporting us, and we are also supporting them. Therefore, the NRM was right to distill the principles of patriotism and Pan-Africanism and to oppose groups that were pushing for parochialism in Uganda and Eurocentrism globally. After the careful analysis, we realized that our prosperity, first and foremost, needed patriotism, that is love Uganda, and Pan-Africanism, love Africa. We access other markets in addition, but let us secure these two levels first. This is why we worked so hard to revive the East African community and to consolidate COMESA. I salute the Wazee, Daniel Arap Moi, the late, R. Hassan Mwinyi, the late, and Benjamin Mkapa, the late, for helping us in this effort. On the COMESA battle, I remember leaders like His Excellency Jean-Baptiste Bagaza of Burundi, Dr. Peter Mutharika of Malawi, Bax Nomvete, he was our Secretary General, he was from South Africa, of COMESA, and others. The third principle of the NRM ideology is socio-economic transformation through education for all, Bona Basome, and wealth creation for all, Bona Bagagaware, by all the families joining the money economy and getting out of the pre-capitalist subsistence economy, or Korra Echida Kionka. The fourth NRM ideological principle is democracy, real democracy for empowering the people to grow and not cheap popularity that the new colonial agents used to manipulate the people. The correct philosophy, the correct ideology, and correct strategy of the NRM, mark those three words, my friends. The world has got a lot of problems, Africa has got a lot of problems, because they make mistakes on philosophy, make mistake on ideology, make mistake on strategy. The correct philosophy, ideology, and strategy of the NRM have enabled the economy and society of Uganda to go through 5 phases since 1986. These phases are, number 1, the minimum economic recovery phase of restoring aspects of the small colonial enclave money economy of the 3 C's and 3 T's. Our small colonial economy was characterized as the economy of the 3 C's and the 3 T's. 3 C's was coffee, copper, and cotton. And the 3 T's were tobacco, tourism, and tea. It was a small economy. But when Amin came, he destroyed it. I didn't have time to explain that. So when we came in, we had to restore that small island. That's why we are calling it enclave. Because enclave means an island. An island of modernity surrounded by a sea of backwardness. That's the situation we had here in the 1960s. And that small island was comprised of the 3 T's and the 3 C's. But Idi Amin destroyed it. So when we came, we had to bring it back. This is the first phase we call the minimum economic recovery. 2, expanding that enclave with the more production of coffee, tea, etc. That small island was producing coffee of 2 million bags. We are now producing 9 million bags. That small island was producing tea of 23 million kilograms before Amin came in. By the time we came, tea production had declined to 3 million kilograms. We are now producing 60 million kilograms of tea. So, number 1, minimum recovery. Number 2, expansion of the small island economy. Number 3, the diversification of the enclave economy by commercializing the production of bananas, cassava, milk, fruits, palm oil, cocoa, fish, beef, etc. Because during the time of the British, they would say that coffee was the cash crop. Milk and maize and so on were not cash crops. They were just for home consumption. But we said no, all these are cash products. That's why, therefore, phase 3 has been diversification. Phase 4, adding value to some of these raw materials, such as cotton, fruits, milk, tea, timber, sugar, etc. The other day in my speech in Nairobi, I was able to castigate the African practice of exporting raw materials. This is very, 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 very dangerous for this continent. Here, I have banned the export of unprocessed minerals. If a mineral is not fully processed, I don't allow it to be exported. But even the other products, we are struggling to add value to all of them, even coffee. Now, number 5, phase 5, the knowledge economy through the production of vaccines, the production of automobiles, and so on. So we are now also entering the 5th phase where we use the science of our young people to produce products. These measures have enabled the economy to grow from US dollars 1.5 billion in 1986 to now US dollars 55 billion by the foreign exchange method and US dollars 180 billion by the PPP method, purchasing power parity method. With US dollars 1,182 per capita, Uganda now has entered the lower middle income status. We have just entered the ground floor of the middle income. Just the first floor, we are down there now. Mwebale okuyingira mu gorofa esooka. Tumwagala kwekubirako mu ngalo bannange. Apoyo Rubanga. There are, however, still some trade barriers in the East African community. These are really roadblocks to our prosperity. All the East Africans should work to remove these bottlenecks by implementing fully the common market protocols, the customs union protocols, so that the fragmented markets of Africa become one market. With a more united African market, we can then be able to negotiate with other countries for market access to their markets, such as the European Union, United States of America, USA, China, Russia, the Gulf countries, India, etc. Internally, we have guided our people that the socio-economic transformation can be realized through Bonaba Some, education for all, and Bonaba Gagawere, prosperity for all, by joining the 4 money-making sectors of commercial agriculture, manufacturing, services, and ICT. The government has provided grants or soft loans for wealth creators to use in joining these sectors in case they do not have their own capital. These funds are well known: Operation Wealth Creation, NADS, PMA, Entandukwa, Parish Development Model Money, Emyoga, the Youth Fund, the Women Fund, Grow Money, etc. Some of these have been merged to become fewer funds, but doing the same work. These funds are mainly for the low-income people. The actors that are more empowered should borrow from the Uganda Development Bank for agriculture, for manufacturing, and some of the services such as tourism. We don't give loans for importers of perfumes and dead people's clothes. You know, I was having a big discussion with them here. Those importers, I cannot give a loan to somebody, soft money, for somebody to import dead people's clothes and import perfumes and whiskey and so on. No. The Uganda Development Bank money is for manufacturing, for agriculture, and for some of the services. If you want to import perfumes, go to the commercial banks. All we have said above is targeted to enable us to create prosperity for ourselves through wealth creation. The second historical mission is strategic security for Africa. African countries, or indeed other countries in the world, may be prosperous economically. Strategically speaking, however, they may still be vulnerable vis-à-vis other global actors. In the Second World War, the first victims of German aggression were the developed countries of Denmark, Holland, Belgium, etc. Even France was conquered by Germany. Therefore, there is something about size. Indeed, the smaller countries of Europe were rescued by the mighty Soviet Union that defeated Hitler's army at Moscow, Belorussia, Stalingrad, Kursk, etc., and were later on, in 1944, joined by the Americans and the British. As we speak today, only 4 countries have been able to land on the moon. These are the USA, China, India, and Russia. Why? Size and development matter. Uganda, even when it becomes a developed country, cannot have an overambitious space program. We are working on implementing a limited space program for overhead observation and communication, broadcasting and telephone communication. We shall have an overhead imaging satellite at an altitude of 600 to 700 kilometers in space, and another one for communication and internet at 36,000 kilometers in space. That one we shall share with the other East African countries. These are, however, not enough to defeat greedy and aggressive parasites who seek 4-dimensional superiority on land forces, superiority in the air, air force, superiority at sea, navy, and superiority in space, space forces. It is partly for this reason, but also for the purpose of implementing the economic integration of the markets easier, that we, the African revolutionaries, our departed elders, such as Kwame Nkrumah, Mwalimu Nyerere, Sekou Toure, Mzee Kenneth Kaunda, and we, their young followers, put forward the principle of political integration as another element of the Pan-Africanism principle. While we always aim at creating a continental common market for the whole of Africa, we also aim at creating a regional political federation where possible. While it is possible and desirable to create a continental common market, a political federation which represents a maximum form of integration should only be for peoples who are either similar or compatible, and preferably with a common language. This is how East Africa has always been the best candidate for political integration. The peoples of the area are the Bantus, the Nilotics, the Nilo-Hamitics, and the Cushitics, whose dialects are either similar or linked. Those delegates, those visitors of yours from Malawi, from Zambia, I'm sure I can speak with them. When we finish the ceremony here, I will greet them. I will say, Muribwanje, Turuwino, Murichari. I'll be talking to them. However, on top of all that, we have the good fortune of having the neutral dialect of Swahili that would easily be the official language of the potentially very powerful Federation of East and Central Africa. This East African Federation, with one army, a common citizenship, in addition to wider common market already talked about in this speech, will provide perpetual insurance for the freedom of the black race and other freedom-loving people in the world. It will have a defense capacity to be present in the 4 dimensions: land, air, sea, and space. How can you insure cars, you insure houses, you insure individual people's health, but forget to provide insurance for the African race? People have got insurance policy. Me, I don't have insurance policy for anything. My insurance is for, if Uganda succeeds, I am insured. I have never, Mama is here, I have never bought insurance policy. Never. My insurance is for Uganda to succeed. When Uganda succeeds, I succeed. But how can you have insurance for cars and buildings and I don't know what, but you don't insure the African race for them to be secure from threats? This was a mistake in the past. How can we repeat the same mistake? In 1963, our leaders were about to achieve this goal. I want to give to the Right Honorable Speaker a historical picture of the pages of the Uganda August. It is there on the screen. That picture there. Federation this year, that was 1963. I will give you a copy, Right Honorable. I give to the Right Honorable Speaker a historical picture of the pages. That's clearer. Show it to the other people, not just me. Are the audience seeing it? That was 1963. And it was the 6th of June, like today. A historic picture of the pages of the Uganda August newspaper of the 6th of June 1963 that captured that moment. You can see, bring the picture of our leaders. Move up we want to see the leaders in that picture there. The picture below is, yes, the picture below is, you can see our elders, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, Mwalimu Nyerere, Mzee Milton Obote, with others, including a delegation from Somalia, declaring the intention to achieve the federation that year, 1963. All the subsequent calamities that befell this part of Africa would never have happened if we had achieved that goal that time. The calamities I'm talking about were the seizing of power by Idi Amin in Uganda, the massacres in Burundi in 1972, the genocide in Rwanda, the collapse of the state authority in Somalia, the prolonged civil war in Sudan, or even the Renamo war in Mozambique, etc. There was no way Idi Amin could seize power here if we had an East African government. It couldn't happen. But the fragmentation, the pseudo sovereignty, you can imagine when Amin grabbed power here, Africans who wanted to oppose him could not do it easily because they were being told, Uganda is independent, Uganda is independent. And even when Amin was killing us, when we would try to get support from other people, we would be told, no, it is Amin's right to kill you because you are his subject. You are his subject. So that missed opportunity was a big setback. A united East African state with one army would never have allowed these tragedies to happen. Indeed, it is the East African cooperation that eventually enables us to solve these problems. However, coordinating multiple sovereign units is less efficient and less prompt in terms of action compared to a united East Africa. The third historical mission is to simply recognize the brotherhood and linkages among the African people and use them to achieve historical missions number 1, prosperity, as well as number 2, strategic security. As we have pointed out a number of times, the African race is only comprised of 4 groups of linguistic classification. These are the Niger-Congo, which includes the Bantu and the Kwa languages of West Africa, the Nilo-Saharan, which includes like our languages of the Nilotic languages and the Nilo-Hamitic, the Afro-Asiatic, which includes the languages of northern Ethiopia, and the Khoisan. Khoisan they are called the Bushmen in South Africa. They used to be called Bushmen. These groups have linguistic similarities within each cluster and linkages between them. In other speeches, I have demonstrated this. You can check on those explanations. The NLM line has been that the people we are trying to unite for the sake of their prosperity and strategic security are either similar or linked. It is therefore a betrayal for the African political classes to fail to grasp this and instead preach sectarianism, parochialism, etc. I therefore call on the Ugandans, especially the Bazukuru, to audit what has been achieved vis-à-vis the 3 historical tasks and the 4 ideological principles of the NRM, see what has been achieved and what remains to be done. Then you should do your own part to do what is not yet done. With patriotism, we have been able to unite the majority of Ugandans. That is why the NRM always wins with a majority on the first round when we go for elections. On the side of Pan-Africanism, we have revived the East African community together with the Wazee Daniel Arap Moi, Al Hassan Mwinyi, and Benjamin Mkapa. Later, our brothers from Rwanda, Burundi, Congo DRC, South Sudan, and recently Somalia joined the East African community. This has helped cross-border trade. Uganda exports goods and services worth US dollars 2.1 billion to the East African countries, and goods and services worth US dollars 2.157 billion to the COMESA countries. There are, however, still non-tariff barriers. With His Excellency William Ruto recently, we agreed to remove all these barriers against sugar, milk, eggs, fruit juices, etc. Saying that X country has got good rains this year and harvested a lot of maize, and therefore X country will either give quotas for maize from Y. Imagine there are 2 African countries, X and Y. They should be trading together. But one year, X says, this year I got a lot of rain and I harvested a lot of maize. So I don't allow your maize to come. The maize of Y. Or I allow what they call a quota, a certain amount. Either give quotas for maize from Y, or will not allow any maize imports from Y this year, is wrong. What happens? Why is it wrong? What happens to the maize growers in Y that year? Since the maize in Y will Kudiba. Kudiba is our local word here, meaning that if you produce something and nobody buys, it's Kudiba. So if the maize from Y this year Kudibas, because in X this year they have got their own maize. What happens to the maize growers in Y that year? Since the maize in Y will Kudiba have no buyers, the farmers will migrate to coffee, a product that depends on the global market and does not have those hurdles. Then next year, there's a shortage of rain in X, and they want maize from Y. Sorry, the farmers were betrayed and they migrated to other products. This is the problem. The correct approach should be that maize from Y should not be blocked even if there is a bumper crop in country X. Let the market determine the maize that will be preferred by the consumers. If it is found that maize producers in country Y are cheaper consistently, then let East Africa allow them to specialize and feed all of us. This is what I said about Tanzanian rice. If Tanzania produces rice more cheaply, let us all buy from them. Stopping Tanzanian rice makes us commit several sins. Sin number one, you sabotage the Tanzanian rice grower by denying him market. Sin number two, you rob the Ugandan consumer by forcing him to buy rice from the inefficient Uganda rice grower at a higher price, because you are punishing the Ugandans to buy more expensive rice that it is because it is from Uganda. Sin number three, you invite Tanzania to counter-block our products. Sin number four, you claim as our own rice growers to remain inefficient and therefore not competitive. Okulemaza is to cripple. Because if you don't allow your child to run and compete, how will he develop capacity? Therefore, let all the East Africans insist on full free trade in the East African Community area and eventually in the whole continental free trade area, CFTA. This is the second task of the Ugandan wealth creators. Struggle for the completely free trade in the common market of East African Community and Africa. The first task of the Ugandan wealth creators is to ensure that all the adults engage in wealth creation in the four sectors of commercial agriculture with the Kibaro, Chura, Otita, Aymar profitability assessment, manufacturing and artisanship, services and ICT using the provided funds of PDM, Emioga, GROW, UDB loans, etc. The third task, after we have fully recovered from the adverse effects of corona and other negative global phenomena, ensure that we provide completely free education for the Ugandan children in government primary and secondary and tertiary institutions, so that we achieve our target of Bona Basome, education for all. The fourth task is for the Ugandans and other East Africans that have got the right spectacles to see how the black race can survive as a free people or even survive at all, to struggle and bring about the creation of the East African Federation. We have long proposed the movement of the willing. When Mwalimu was let down by his contemporaries on this issue, he moved with Mzee Karume to unite Tanganyika and Zanzibar to form Tanzania. It has been a great success. If we all can move together, it will be good. If we cannot, let the willing move. The crucial point that needs to be done is for the Pan-Africanists to be more active in pushing for the struggle for the political federation of East Africa and for the full economic integration of the common market of Africa. You should aggressively expose those who work for foreign interests and are always diverting our people through the media to the interests of the foreigners. If you read the papers, nobody is talking about African integration. You pick the papers. Papers, social media. What is your future? If you don't know that integration of the market is our salvation, then how can you be in leadership? What are you leading? Are you a leader unto darkness and death? How can it be that you read the papers? Nobody. Football, music, cinema, I don't know what. Okay, you can do those things, but you must survive fast. You should aggressively expose those who work for foreign interests and are always diverting our people through the media to the interests of the foreign parasites. The African race will enjoy football and music better. I am a footballer myself, you remember? However, from 1966, somebody asked me, what European football club do I support? I said, what? Me to support, I don't even know those clubs. I am a footballer, I was a footballer, but from 1966, when we started our struggles here, my mind is on the future of Africa. I like football. But you cannot have football if you are a slave. You cannot enjoy it. The African race will enjoy football and music better if you also contribute to the creating of an African